Hi and welcome to another episode of Fun with Azure. I'm Martin Abbott.
And I'm Todd Elliott.
So Todd, what have we been up to over the last few weeks?
We've been over at Toronto, Microsoft World Partner Conference, and soaking up what's new in the Microsoft world.
Yeah.
One of the key themes this year, Martin, for WPC was digital transformation, the sort of fourth industrial revolution, and what that means to us today as people increasingly using online services, and security was a feature of WPC this year, and sort of with the announcement of some new products in that area. And I think there's also been, and you'll cover these off later, but the launch of AppSource.
Yeah.
And was announced that Facebook is now adopting Office 365 as its major collaboration tool. Big win for Microsoft in that space. Suji's Predix product on Azure was announced but is not available yet. What were the sort of key highlights for WPC for you, Martin?
Well, not surprisingly, I suppose I attended mostly technical sessions. I attended a number of roundtables, and the roundtables, they're not like a normal sort of session where you go in and you're in a room with a bunch of 50 or 60 or 70 odd people and somebody just does a presentation. The roundtables is a really small, intimate group of people, no more than about 20 people with the engineering teams. So that, you can imagine, that's great for just having conversations with the engineering teams. The engineering teams do a brief presentation, a lot of NDA stuff which I can't talk about, obviously, but there is a lot of stuff that they promote in terms of interaction and feedback, because that's really what those roundtables are about. It's about providing feedback for those features that they're NDAing. So it's just a really, really great little environment to have a conversation. Okay.
And Martin, so what's in news this week?
Thanks, Todd. So it's been a while since we've done some news, so there are a few announcements. So the first one I wanted to talk about was the Usage and Billing portal. So last year, the Azure Resource Usage and Rate Card APIs were released. Basically now the developer experience team have created a veneer across that, a portal across that, and they've open sourced it, so you can go and improve it and play with it as you see fit. But it's a great way of getting a view across all your subscriptions, so I do urge you to go and download that. See the link below to find that. We mentioned in the opening section around AppSource. So AppSource was announced, it was one of the big announcements, I suppose, at WPC. Essentially what this is a marketplace for users to find and evaluate SaaS solutions that have been developed by ISVs on top of Microsoft services, so things like Office 365, Dynamics 365, and of course the Azure platform. There's a few requirements for the applications that you need to adhere to. One of those is that you have to use Azure AD, and the other one is you have to offer a trial version so as people can try things before they buy. But beyond that, really, it's a great way, if you've got a SaaS application, of getting it marketed and out there and available. The next thing I wanted to talk about was a release of an SDK for Azure storage for Node.js. Now, there's been a bunch of SDKs been released over the years, and this was just a release of the general an announcment of the general availability of this particular SDK for Node.js for the Azure storage framework. So essentially, you can go and grab that from npm if you use that. You can also contribute again. It's all open source as usual. You can contribute again on GitHub. Another big announcement, which is of personal interest to me because I find this particular sort of thing very interesting, is MPI support on Linux on Azure Batch. So Azure Batch is Microsoft's high-performance computing real-time runtime engine, essentially. There's been support for Linux and Windows for some time. They announced MPI support for Windows a while ago, and they've just announced MPI support for Linux on Azure Batch. With that, they've also provided a rather nice sample using OpenFOAM. Now, OpenFOAM is an open source and publicly available computational fluid dynamics toolkit. I find that particularly interesting. I'm an aeronautical engineer by trade. So you can go in there, you can download that toolkit, you can download the sample, and you can actually go there and start running a full-blown simulation on Azure Batch. And you can use Azure Batch for many other things as well from MPI perspective. You can use it for fire modeling, Monte Carlo simulations if you want to do a lot of financial modeling. All those sort of things are great use cases for high performance computing and MPI. The other big announcement, and again we mentioned this in the opening section, was around security. So last December Microsoft released the Azure Security Center. Now this is essentially something that sits in your subscription and will look at all your various bits and pieces that you've provisioned across your subscription. and give you suggestions about how you can fix up the security in that. Now, obviously, that's a great little tool because you can imagine that security needs to be at the heart of everything that you do. It has to be the first thing that you write down on your list of paper. So that's quite an important thing. They've just released that into general availability, and as part of that release, they've announced that it will now support Linux VMs, and also there's a bunch of brand new algorithms that they've written to make it even broader in terms of its ability to do threat modeling and advanced analytics. The next thing was around Logic Apps. Logic Apps has been a service that's been in preview for some time. There's been various releases over the last year or so, updates that have been introduced, breaking changes. For those of you who don't know, Logic Apps is Microsoft's integration platform as a service. It's actually part of the broader app service suite inside Azure, so that's mobile apps, web apps, Logic Apps and API apps, and also Azure Functions. That's just gone general availability, and there's been much fanfare around this because it's been quite a long time coming. As part of that general availability, they've also released a consumption-based model that allows you to essentially provision a Logic app outside of a standard app service plan and still use it and just get billed based on consumption. So that's kind of broadly similar to the way that Functions dynamic app service plans work. So that's a great little thing to be released. The next piece of news is around Service Bus. So Service Bus has been for a long time inside the Classic portal and only in the Classic portal, and if you go into the new portal and you try to provision anything in the Service Bus suite, you get bounced to the old portal. They've just released a preview of Service Bus messaging inside the new portal. So Service Bus messaging is essentially queues and topics. You can't currently do event hubs or Service Bus relays inside the new portal. You still have to go to the old portal for that. But as part of that release, what they've also announced is the fact that they're actually completely splitting the way those namespaces work. So in the future you will have 3 distinct namespaces, one for event hubs, one for messaging, and one for relay. That kind of fits broadly into the ability to provision all this stuff through the resource management template. The final piece of news is around the IoT support for X509 certificates. So 509 certificates are kind of like an industry standard for securing information exchange between endpoints. So they've just announced that you can now start using 509 certificates between a device and an IoT hub. So you can use certificate exchange to secure that interchange between those two endpoints. So that's a great little piece of news. Obviously your device has to be capable enough to understand and use that private key, but that's just part of the device build essentially. So that's the news.
Thanks for that news, Martin.
No problem.
And what have you got in store for us in the technical session today?
Well, in the technical session, I'm going to be talking about the new Visual Studio tooling for Logic Apps. It's a new designer, so I'm going to be going through that.
Okay, sounds interesting.
So today we're going to look at the new Visual Studio tooling for Logic Apps that was released as part of the Logic Apps general availability. This is actually a preview as it stands currently. So first off, we're going to start. We've got a very simple resource group here. It doesn't contain anything currently, as you can see. Just to prove that's the case, I'll just click refresh very quickly here, and you can see it's not containing anything. So swap over to Visual Studio. It's actually an extension that you need to install. So we'll go into extensions, do a quick search for Logic Apps, and it will suddenly appear. Just give it a second, just do the search. There we are, you can see it there, Azure Logic Apps Tools for Visual Studio. I've actually already got it installed, as you can see with the green tick. So I won't install that again, so we'll just click close out of that. Then we'll start a new project. Now, basically you access the designer through the resource group Visual Studio template. So we'll just quickly give it a name. Click OK, and then we'll get the usual dialog that we get when we start a new Azure Resource Group template, which is all the various parts that you can install. So here we go, we've got a Logic app here. You can see this is the template for creating an empty Logic app. And it does create a Logic app straight away, but it is just an empty one. So you don't need to actually add the Logic app separately. So off we go now, we're just creating the project. And it's a pretty standard Azure Resource Group Management template project. So we have a look, there's PowerShell for doing the deployment, and then we've got a parameters file, and we've also got this logic app.json file. And it's that logic app.json file that contains the blank logic app. So if we just quickly right click on there, we'll see the new dialog there. They open with Logic App Designer. So we'll just click that. This now goes away to my Azure subscription, just to get a list of the subscriptions that I've got associated to my Microsoft account and the resource groups associated to those. Just takes a couple of seconds to load. And we'll just go ahead and choose Logic Apps Designer Test, I showed you previously. Click OK, and that's now then going to create the Logic app on the design surface. So there we are. You can see it's looking awfully familiar to the design surface that you get inside the portal. So this is again pretty standard. It's just the usual design that you see, all the usual triggers. And for this sample, we're just going to go and choose the Twitter trigger, so that when new tweets are posted with a specific piece of text, which I'm going to use, we'll do something with it, and that something will be we'll just go ahead and drop that into Dropbox. So first off, we need to authorize the Logic app to access my Twitter account, and again, this is exactly the same as we'd normally expect to do in the Azure portal. So there's a great synergy between the two. So I'll just put in my password there. Click authorize, and obviously that's where it goes away and authorizes this Logic app to do so. Now I'm going to look for a piece of text that I know will get many hits currently, so I'm going to look for the word Trump. Next thing I need to do is decide what I'm going to do with tweets that contain this text. So as I mentioned, all I'm going to do here really is just create a new Dropbox file. It's a fairly standard way of just testing these things, just to get a tweet and drop them into a Dropbox file. So again, I have to authorize. It's the first time I've done this, so I'm going to have to authorize this Logic app to access my Dropbox account. So I'll just type in my email address and my password. And there we go, and we'll now click to allow it to access my Dropbox account. So I'm going to put all my tweets into a separate folder that I've created previously. So I'm just going to go in here and choose that folder, Logic Apps Test. I'm going to create the file name based on the tweet ID, because I want a unique file each time I get a tweet. So I'll just create that based on the tweet ID.txt. And for the content of the file, I'm just going to go and grab the tweet text. So there you are. You can see there's my Logic app. I've got something that's looking for tweets containing the word Trump, and then I'll dump those files into my Dropbox. Now, in much the same way as you can in the browser, you can just go and have a look at the code view. So again, this is just the JSON file that helps describe that particular Logic app, and we can have a look in here. We can see there's the Logic Apps Test folder that I chose previously. Not all the data that's in this is available inside the design surface. So you can see there there's the recurrence with the interval of the number of minutes. That is available in the designer online, but it's not available here. So we'll just click save, and the next thing, of course, we need to do is that now we're happy with our particular Logic app, we need to deploy it to Azure. So we go here, and in much the same way as we always do with these templates, we go and click deploy, new deployment, and then we get the usual dialog that we have to fill in whenever we deploy a resource management template. So again, just choosing the subscription and the resource group. We need to give the Logic app a name. It's one of the parameters that's required, so we'll give that Logic app a name. We'll call it Trump Gatherer. And there we are. It takes a little while to upload and deploy, so just got some of that out, and as you can see, it's been successfully deployed to our resource group. So if we now switch to the browser and just quickly click refresh, we can see we've got our Logic app and we've got our two API connections. That's good. That's what we wanted. If we click into our Logic app, we can go ahead and edit it in much the same way as we would have traditionally done in the old days before the Visual Studio Designer came in. And this is, again, very familiar to anybody who's done any development with Logic Apps. We can see the frequency and the interval here, which doesn't appear in the design surface currently in Visual Studio, but beyond that, it's just a very, very bog standard view of a Logic app. And again, we can go into the code view here and take a look. So we'll see that currently this hasn't run. It's on an interval, remember. And if we look in our folder, we can see that there's currently no files that have been dumped into my Dropbox folder. So I'm just going to go ahead and just manually run the trigger. So there we are, we'll start our Logic app. And there you go, we can see some tweets coming in, and then just to prove that they do contain the word Trump, if we have just a quick look at them, there we are, Trump's there, and just check another one just to be sure. And yeah, okay, so we're getting tweets that we expect to get. And that's really it. We can see it's pretty straightforward to create these things and push them forward. The other thing to note here is, if we do a refresh, we can see obviously the running, but the other thing to note here is, if we look at the plan, it says consumption, because this is using the new consumption-based, so that's pay-as-you-go model for charging, not the app service plan. And that's it. Thanks for watching.
Okay, thanks for the technical session, Martin.
No problem.
Well, this has been Fun with Azure.
I'm Martin Abbott.
And I'm Todd Elliott, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks.